Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Monday show of the Feminine Force. We're so delighted to have you here. Hi, Lisa. How are you? How's your weekend?
Sensational, Caroline. It's been a great weekend this weekend. Very
Gorgeous.
busy.
And sorry, I said last week that you were in Sydney. You're not in Sydney anymore. I forgot.
I'm on the Sunshine Coast where there isn't any sunshine today, but there was on the weekend.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds gorgeous. I've been looking at lovely photographs you sent me, and it just looks like paradise there. Really beautiful. It reminds me of Summer Bay and Home and Away that I spent my whole life watching.
When you said that, like,
So we import those shows, because we don't have the sun. So I'm growing up on all this. I'm like, oh my God, amazing. It's so funny. Coming home from secondary school, first thing I did was watch, Home and Away.
that's so
Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
I don't think I
amazing.
used to watch it at all, so I think it's more popular overseas than what it is at
Yeah,
home.
yeah, exactly. We're trying to import your lifestyle in the sun, the vibes. Amazing. So, we in the background, everyone, we were talking about, I suppose what we teach here really is we're always trying to teach self-control and the calm mind, the calm state of mind between the two of us. And Lisa focuses on, I suppose, more so the self-control when it comes to our emotions, because that is how we can master ourselves, become this master mind where we can become, conscious creators in the world, when we can stop and pause and then make a conscious decision and how we're going to create our life in the present moment. And I talk about, the, I suppose, angel thinking and how we can come into that oneness and how we can look at our lives from a higher perspective and higher consciousness and how that works and our connection to that. So we've been grappling with like how to, I suppose, nearly brand it, nearly explain it, in a terms when it comes to the emotions and how I see Lisa and what Lisa does in the world and is so vital. And the fact that Lisa has, as I see, I suppose she's a gift really for going into people's and helping people go into their emotions and start to purify those areas within themselves into the areas that they don't want to go into, the feelings that they don't want to feel, the experiences that they're nearly unaware of that are actually ruling their lives, and that they actually don't have control in their lives because of that, because they're not addressing those areas and they're avoiding those areas. It's so vitally important to become empowered in the world, because we can never change our behavior until we address those negative patterns that we have within our persona. So Lisa's work is so amazing and so vital in the world at the moment. And I've noticed like there's a lot of emotional education around. I see a lot of teachers, but I feel like with what Lisa has is kind of beyond that, because she has a spiritual side of it as well, and she's a very deep intuition into their emotional worlds, where she can nearly guide people in, because she kind of has that perception of what the work that needs to be done. She can see that beyond what other people can see. So it's very special. And we were thinking of what could we call that? What could that be called? And we came up with this, the emotions whisperer, which is beautiful. I just love it, because Lisa explained to me how she can sense this, wants people to become aware of the whisper of their emotions, and how they can it's a very subtle feeling, but how it can actually, when you go into it and start to investigate into that subtle feeling, that it can really, start to give you more information about yourself. And I'd love you, Lisa, to talk a little bit about, like, maybe why you're so passionate, because you're so passionate about emotions and emotional education, but also there's this emotion whispering that you have as a kind of a gift. I definitely see is very unique in the world. And I'd love you to kind of just talk to people a little bit about where that came from and how that ability nearly grew in you, first of all, and then maybe how you work with clients with that, and how you help people in the world with that.
Oh, well, it's something that's developed over time with my experiences with other people and also with myself and being a mum, because often what we do with our children really helps us to grow. I think things really started to change for me when I was a teacher for maybe about, I don't know, 8 to 10 years. I spent quite a time as a teacher. And one of the things that really used to disturb me was looking at how we treat the emotional world or the feeling world of children. Like there's no consideration really. I mean, there's more and more now, but back then there was really no consideration. Children were expected to come in, sit down, be quiet and work. And of course, so many children couldn't do that. So many children had probably all this emotion going on inside. So sort of being able to sit and learn and be quiet, they just did not have the capacity for that. And so I was watching this and thinking, there's definitely a gap there. And then as my own daughters started to grow and become teenagers, and I started to interact more with girls of that age, I started to see how these unaddressed emotions were playing out. And of course, I saw how that happened in my own teenage years. And even now, I've had some experiences in a private rehab centre, and just watching the end results of what happens to people as they live their lives and they have these emotional experiences that are very hard to process. And it's not fun, and the way I look at it now, we have a lot of, medically, we have structures around that can help with mental health. But is there a little bit of reverberation there? Can you hear that? No, it's okay. So medically, I think we have a structure around that can help people. And there's that. There's also now a lot of new therapies coming out that are helping people when they get to those crisis points and they can't cope anymore. And that's amazing. Like psychotherapy, breath work, art therapy, like there are so many things. And I incorporate a lot of that in my work. But for me, my passion really is in, why don't we prevent that? Why don't we actually go back to the root source of all of these things? If we knew how to listen to the whispers of the feelings that need to be processed at the very beginning, if we knew what to do with those feelings, then we wouldn't have to face what they become a couple of years down the path, because feelings don't go away. They get held onto, and every time a similar situation activates a similar feeling, there's more feeling that just gets stored, and more feeling that gets stored, and more feeling that gets stored. And so 5 or 10 years down the track, we're looking at, extreme anxiety, depression, maybe suicidal thoughts. We're looking at psychosis. We're looking at all of these things that's a lot harder to do anything about. We all learn, and I do believe that we can all learn to be our own emotions whisperer. I do believe that. We do have to be trained though, because the way we've been brought up and the way we've been raised is not to listen to the whispers, because they are whispers, and you have to know what to listen for, and then you have to know how to really go in there and understand and extract the information, if you like interpret what that whisper is, what's it saying, like that. There really is a skill in that, and that's very practical. It's not woo-woo, even though emotion whispering sort of sounds a bit intuitive, and it does become intuitive, like you do. And really, what is intuitive? Intuitive just means naturally, like they say that the Apple Macs are a more intuitive system because, they work with you, they work very naturally. So if we think about working like that with our emotions, that is hearing those whispers early on. So for me, it seems that there's a real gap in our capacity to prevent emotional disturbances. There's a real gap in our education on how to actually hear the whispers of our feelings when they first start. And then what do I do with them? Because once we do know how to do something with them, we actually empower ourselves. We release a lot of energy and emotion that we've been holding on to, and we feel more empowered. We feel more in charge of our lives. We feel like we can get through anything. Because if I can do that, if I can actually deal with the way I feel about something, then I know that whatever happens, I have the tools and the skills to be able to get through it. And that's pretty amazing, right? You don't have to be scared of what's to come. You don't have to be scared of what's going to happen in the world or the uncertainty, because even though they might be tough and they might be painful, you have an inner knowing that you can actually work through the feelings and the emotions of it, so you're not going to get totally wiped out. And that's really a great thing to feel, especially in the world as it is right now.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing, Lisa. It's so fabulous. And listening to that, why I'm so passionate about working with you on this is because I'm always focused about, you know, people coming into their full potential. And like that they are creative beings and they're so powerful in the world. That's the truth of who we are. And the barrier and the block is the fear all around the emotions, and try how can we come into the present moment. When we come into the present moment, that's very scary for a lot of people because they're scared of all those emotions that are coming up. But when we do become present and we start to become that emotions whisperer, like you say, we only have to do that work once, and we can release when we go through the emotional hurts and pains and things that, that the suppressed anger a lot of the time as well that we're holding on to. It frees us to be who we were meant to be and to do what we're meant to do in the world. So like the problems of the world aren't being addressed because people are not doing that work, because and we need to, I suppose it's this awakening of who we are to become is, I suppose, the emotional tension at the moment, because it's life is wanting to evolve us up to the next level of our capacity as humanity. But this is the block in the way. And unfortunately, like you said, it can get to very dire circumstances, and things have moved on a lot since, like, my father was psychiatric nurse back, um, for 30 years, and he worked with, chronic patients coming into A&E as a night over, usually he was on night shifts, and, devastating stories, like you say, you're seeing and witnessing. But like that, if we were to be trained to work
Mm,
with the whisper and not to suppress it, to really
mm,
be able to work, and that is kind of the mastery of how to navigate life as well, isn't it? Because like you say, it's giving you information. It's trying to tell you it's useful. You know what I
that's
mean? That's why you were designed to have emotions for a reason, and it's like as if, the car it's like a machine that isn't working properly because we're not reading the user manual, and we don't have
mm,
the training and how to use our own to be a
yeah,
fully human.
that's right.
Yeah.
And it's funny if you think about it, because so many people pray and plead for a better life. Like, I want this, or I want to be that, or I don't want to feel this anymore. I want to get over there. I want to get over there. I want to get over there. So to get over there, you have to grow, or you have to expand. You've got to move into that place.
Mm.
And if I have a feeling, and I understand that feeling, and I know how to work with it, and I can emerge out of what I am into the next moment, I'm emerging into the next moment.
Mm.
That makes sense to me. That makes sense, that that's how feelings are meant to work, that we're meant to work with them to get into our next moment. However, what we often do is, because we can't feel the feeling fully in this moment, we resist it or suppress it, or we try to analyze it, and we can't fully own it. Then we just create a recycling of that moment. Like, we
Mm.
actually never get into that place we want to get into. We want to get over there. But unless we fully feel our feelings, we can never get to that place, because we're keeping ourselves trapped in this cycle of feeling that consistently brings up conflict or anxiety or whatever it is that we're feeling, that we
Mm.
keep feeling over and over again. And that will always happen until we actually stop and feel that feeling. And by the time it gets quite big, it's pretty challenging to want to do that. Like, for a human, and I know a lot of my clients go,
Yeah.
I'm just really scared I'm going to get lost in it. I'm scared I'm going to get taken away. And like, that is, I understand why people would feel like that.
Mm.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen it happen, But, you know, like with the right tools, that doesn't have to happen.
It's to having you there as well, people with them, you know, sitting and holding the space as well, you know, it's creates safety, you know, and somebody to guide you through that, you know. So, and like, I suppose what happens as well is like when you have negative those emotions and those negative thoughts creating, you know, negative emotions, it becomes like this heavy groove in the brain, you know. So that's like a groove that's being carved over again and again and again and again if you keep like in that loop, like you're saying. So then whenever the energy force of life itself comes through us, it goes into that groove instead of going into the, you know, into the pure expression of who we are. It goes into that delusional thought or delusional feeling. And then it takes a lot of training to come back, but it's step by step. But once you've decided that you want to go on that path and you want to kind of live a happy life, a joyful life, you know, it's just step by step, you know, again, you know, coming back to the moment and then working through the emotions. And then people start to feel relief and joy. And I know you've had great success with clients of yours, you know, over time with your guidance and quite quickly in a lot of cases, people having breakthroughs and, you know, because we're so intelligent. Like I just feel like human beings are amazing. They're absolutely fabulous. So intelligent. And because we are like designed this way and we have this connection to life itself as well, that all you need sometimes is the nudge, or sometimes when people are really in dire straits of suffering, they're in perfect channel or open space for change and transformation because they've had enough of the old way of being and they want something new and they're desperate for something. And when then they're introduced this new way of thinking or new tools, you know, it can be sometimes like a huge, beautiful blossoming,
I
can't it?
see that. I do see that a lot with
Yeah.
many of my clients that are just right at the end of this, like, I'm so sick and tired of feeling like this.
Hmm.
And within one session, it's almost like they're able to see, oh, wow, there's a whole new way of doing my feelings. And just opening that door, they just feel all this relief and they start to feel empowered straight away. And then what comes next is, okay, here are the tools. Let's apply these tools. And so then, you know, in consecutive weeks, I'll then give them, you know, like the support to actually start to look at what is it that's right deep down that got them to that place in the first place. And how can they shift those patterns so that they can step into relationships that really empower them, or behaviors that
Mm.
empower them. So it's really practical. And it's almost like that the more we stop and listen, there is a guidance. Our feelings are giving us a guidance all the time. And it's very practical because we do have to, it's like building a muscle. It's not really something that takes forever. We do get
Yeah.
much better at it over time.
Yeah.
But in the short term, we can very quickly change a lot of the way we feel just by opening the door into looking at things a bit differently and seeing how we can actually listen to the whispers and applying certain tools that really help us in our everyday life. And I think that feeling empowered and knowing how to express how I feel, if I
Mm.
listen to my whispers, I know how to express how I feel without creating conflict, which is something that very few of us have been taught. So we don't even know how to build more connection through sharing our feelings. So often we don't want to share our feelings. We don't want to hurt people, rather than seeing them as something that actually can create connection and create beautiful relationships. So, you know, even little things like that, and that's all part of this education process, you know. So there's so much to it, and it's so empowering, and it's
Mm.
something that every single person can develop because we have the capacity to do that, being human. And the more we do it, the more intuitive we become, until it becomes very much like you could be walking along and you can feel a slight agitation and you listen to that, and then you go right and you know exactly what it's about and you know
Yeah.
exactly what to do about it, and you can shift it straight away. And all of that happens within the space of a very short, like 10-15 minutes, if
Yeah.
that, you know. So you become very, very empowered at living your own life, which is really what it's all about.
Absolutely. It's being in life and not checking out, you know, checking in. And it gives you the ability to be able to be in your life and to be, because what, you know, another aspect of it is when we're blocked and we're kind of blocking our own feelings, we're blocking the how we show up in the world and what we can share, but also the love that we want to receive, that we can receive, and that life is trying to give us. It's trying
That's
to,
right.
you know, be in beautiful relationships with people. We can't be in that relationship if we got this emotional blocks that we're not allowing people in, and we don't feel safe in ourselves, and we don't trust ourselves, and we don't. And it takes compassion and also like validation of the emotions, because I know within the feminine force community group that we do together, like we've witnessed that together when we're sitting with people, how like just the validation of emotions that people have had since they were children, just like it's just such a major relief and release of that tension that people are holding on to. A lot of the time it can just be like it's like bursting a bubble sometimes, isn't it? When you see that happening, it's just it has a domino effect then, doesn't it, on the nervous system and
Everything.
you
Yeah.
know yeah
Everything.
yeah
And it's interesting because the feelings that we aren't listening to, and which is not our fault, we just haven't been taught how to do it.
mm,
There's a couple of things that happen as a result of that maybe we're not aware of. One is that they act like a veil over our perception. So
mm,
we're looking through the wound all the time at our life. So the
mhm,
wounds, the emotional wounds I hold, they're like the filter that I look at my life through. So I perceive different events as a result of my wound. So if I don't feel good enough, for example, even in my business, I'll take certain actions that really demonstrate that I'm not worthy, I'm
mm,
not good enough, so I have to do something else. I have to do more to make myself worthy, or I'm too afraid to charge a certain amount, or whatever it is. So everything, business, relationships, parenting,
mm,
everything, looking out and acting out through that veil. So that's one way that our feelings impact our lives. And the other way is that, like you said before, if I'm holding all of this emotion, right, most of me is really busy holding this to the side. All of that is like shut down. So I'm not even operating in that area of my life, right? That's all just being stored inside of me and being held. And so I
mm.
can't be fully present because there's a part of me that's not here. There's a part of me that is shut down and suppressed. And often I might not even be aware of it, but I feel a numbness in my life. So it really influences our relationships because, and thirdly, the other thing, and this is the thing that frightens me the most, right, which is one reason why I really wanted to get a handle on this, all of those emotions, because we need to heal. We are nature. We are part of nature. And the way nature works is we move naturally towards harmony and healing and expansion. We don't have a choice because we are part of the life force. So how it works is that whatever needs healing in me, that actually reflects and comes back to me from the outside. So I constantly, if I need to heal something, go back to not good enough, if I need to heal that inside myself, the only way I can see that is if life keeps bringing me events and situations that show me I'm not good enough. I can't see often inside of me, but I can see what's going on outside of me. So it's almost like life keeps bringing me these mirrors to show me this is what's actually not working inside of you. This is something you have to look at. And so that is a really big call to want to act. Because if I'm healed inside, I'm not going to be unconsciously creating or having these situations keep appearing to me that are unpleasant in order that I see what I need to heal inside of me. So, like I really hope that I've convinced you to start listening to your feelings.
Absolutely.
Listen to the whispers, right? Don't let them get to a yell because
Yes, yeah,
it's
yeah.
so much harder to deal with.
I often say that as well. Like, yeah, life starts off as like a little whisper, just like telling you something, and then you ignore it, and then it gets louder and louder and louder and louder, and eventually, then it's like roaring at you. You have to
And
do
that's the
this. You
marriage
need to look at it.
breakups. That's the
Yeah,
marriage breakups. That's
yeah,
all the trauma that we have is that happens when it's roaring and like
yeah. Yeah, and
We
you
can
might be
avoid it.
looking, you're looking at all different parts of your life, and then there's one part then you don't want to look at, and that's starting to that will, because it's this evolution, like, and our consciousness is the accumulation of the contents of our thinking and the contents of our feeling, which is our heart and the mind, and they create our consciousness, and our consciousness is always reflected in the world coming back to us. So if we want to improve the consciousness that how we live like that, it's the work of changing our mind and changing our emotions, coming back into that beautiful state again and again and working through them. Like, so Lisa, that's so amazing, so exciting, and it's just like so inspiring to see the growth that people are having and the emergence of this understanding, I suppose, as well, because it takes people who are really committed to really wanting to solve a problem, constantly pioneering in your own life, to try and find solutions for other people. And the more we work on ourselves, the more we can teach and bring, like, your books and your coaching to the world, and the more people that can be helped and guided on that. So thank you so much, Lisa.
They can help other
Yeah.
people. And I'll leave it one last thing. And I've heard this often from my clients. They say things to me like, I am just a completely different person. I cannot believe how my life has changed. I cannot believe how I just feel so good. Like, I can't even believe that I was that person. So that's how much life can improve when you start to listen to the whisper of your feelings.
Amazing, Lisa. And how can people get in touch with you? Could you share your website for if people haven't been aware of your work? Go ahead.
It's www.imlisajane.com. That's IAMLISAJAYNE.com. And just, reach out and, for more information, have a look there. There's workshops, there's all sorts of things happening there. But yeah, really happy for you to get in contact and ask questions, because it'd just be so amazing. The more people that can listen to those whispers, the better our world is going to be. So thank you, Caroline. I appreciate your company tonight and your questions. And thank you, everyone, for watching. It's been really lovely.
Thank you, everyone. And see you again on Wednesday. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks, Lisa. That was amazing. Amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline.